Replaying your words there in my head. When you're not here, I'm stuck in bed. I'm starting to break. I'm starting to break. I'm starting to break down. Watch all of the bullets fall to the ground. You took a shot and I'm yours now. But I'm starting to break. I'm starting to break down. Break down, break down, break down, break down, break down, break down. You could be the one now.
You got the
Oh boy. I was just about to say I feel better today than I do Monday, but I'm already making cloddy mistakes. I do feel better than Monday, thank God. We have one gentleman here who obviously doesn't know how to dress. Possibly the worst outfit I've ever seen in a class. He's got a Packers. What is it, to wash your car in? You wash your car with that and you wear it? What is it?
It's the Tennessee losing championship team.
You know, I'm a massive Bears fan, right? Yeah. But actually, I'm a big Packers fan too, believe it or not. I'm like the only Bears fan who likes the Packers. I have good friends that love the Packers. I've been to a bunch of games up there, so anyway. All right, so I feel better today. And we're going to turn the gas on today, boys and girls. So up to now, it's been a little bit fun and games. Starting now, pretty much to the end of the semester, we're going to be covering some stuff. And that starts today. So bad attendance, only 11 people online, and they're going to pay for it. Because again, like starting today, we're covering a bunch of stuff today, and this is pretty much how the classes are going to go from now on. Okay? So we're going to talk about advertising, public relations, and sales promotions. And a lot of people, like if you go out with your friends and say, I'm taking marketing, this is basically what they think of as advertising, right? They think that marketing in its totality is what you see on the internet in terms of banner ads or pop-ups or whatever the case is, or on TV or on the billboards or whatever the case is. And you'll find out at the end of the semester, obviously, advertising, just like all elements of marketing, is a small part of the total pie. But advertising is what people think about. Public relations, you guys probably don't know what that is, and we'll talk about that today. And sales promotion, you might not know what that is too. But we're going to cover this chapter. I'm going to take 2 classes to cover this chapter. Okay? So advertising, public relations, what are they? Advertising is a marketing communication employees openly sponsored, non-personal message to promote or sell product or service or idea. You know what an advertising is. Public relations is way more confusing. Public relations is the practice of deliberately managing the spread of information between an individual, organization, and the public. What the hell does that mean? Does anybody know what public relations actually does? What do they do? Not really. Kind of. You know what they do? What do public relations people actually do in a company? Yeah, it's okay. So public relations, like, who knows what an annual report is? Do you guys know what an annual report is? You're lying to me. Who doesn't know what an annual report is? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Everybody knows what an annual report is. Okay. So public relations departments put out, and that's one of their functions, is to put out the annual report. Public relations is in business in a company to manage both the good news and the bad news. They're the speech writers, for instance. You know, when you see executives or government officials, for that matter, you know, they're not writing their speeches, you guys. You know, somebody's writing their speeches for them. So in a company perspective, public relations does stuff like that. When things go wrong, I had a guest speaker in here, I don't know, a couple of years ago. Are you guys familiar with Primrose Academies? Is a upper end daycare, basically, right? Very expensive daycare, and they're all over the country. And she came in, and she was in public relations for Primrose. And one of the things she had just was going through was there in Dallas, Texas, a car went through the fence of one of the Primrose properties and almost killed one of the kids. Well, the reason you send your kid to Primrose, one of the reasons is because of security, right? So if it gets out that a car went through a fence, it's got nothing to do with the fact that it had nothing to do with Primrose. It wasn't their fault. They have to manage the dialogue. So if that gets out, the first thing they're going to say is, that wasn't our fault, and let us tell you everything we're doing to keep your kids safe. So public relations will do stuff like that. Public relations will manage a lot of the big events, corporate events, marketing events. They manage that. Public relations is actually a pretty cool job that's stressful and hard to get into, for what it's worth. And we'll talk more about it later on. But it is a cool job, but it's hard to get into. A lot of like English majors go into it. You know, you have to have tremendous communication skills, both verbally and written. And then sales promotion is basically either, it doesn't matter whether it's consumer or business to business. It's how do you promote somebody? How do you encourage somebody to buy your product? Right? So it's used to introduce new products, clear out inventories, attract traffic, blah, blah, blah. We'll talk all about that. There's a million different sales promotions ideas. You guys are bombarded with it every day, and you know, a lot of times you don't even recognize it. So those are the three things we're going to talk about today and Wednesday. Most of Wednesday, if not all Wednesday. Wait, what day's today? Monday. You know what I mean. All right, steps in planning, executing an ad campaign. First, let me introduce something called an ad agency. Do you guys know what an ad agency is? You guys ever heard of an ad? You know what an ad agency is? No? You guys ever heard of it? They make ads, okay. So they make ads. It's good. For who? Companies, okay. So ad agencies work with companies. And so companies have a marketing department, like big companies have a marketing department. I'm talking all big companies have a marketing department. But almost all big companies have the marketing department working with an ad agency. So a lot of the commercials you see, almost all the commercials you see on TV or even on the internet or any place else for a particular product from a big company is developed by an ad agency. And ad agencies are the ones that have the skills to develop, we're going to talk about this next 2 days, but the skills and the requisite knowledge to develop programs and you know, like we talked last week about the Geico Gecko, right? So Geico, nobody at Geico came up with that idea. Whoever they're, I don't know who the hell their advertising is, but some advertising agency went in with this, you know, big intense meeting, and they're going to talk about, oh, we're going to spend $150 million next year on advertising, and oh, by the way, we're going to use a Gecko. You know, so that's what an ad agency does. Now, ad agencies do a lot more stuff than ads, although that's their primary role. They do research. They do events. Events meaning like one of my best friend's daughter works for an ad agency, and they do holy cow, what's the college game day? College game day for guys, for sports fans. So the ad agency is the one who runs that whole thing. It's not the network or NFL or NCAA. So they do research, they do events, they do all kinds of stuff in addition to ads. So nobody knows about these dudes. I certainly didn't know about them in college. Again, tons of jobs there. Tons of jobs there, but the sexier the job, the less, we talked about this, the sexier the job, the least we're going to get paid. That poor girl who works on college game day, it sounds so cool. She hangs out with the athletes and those announcers, and she does. She makes like 40 grand and works her ass off all year. You know, so it's a lifestyle. You know, they party. Yeah, it's a lifestyle. So ad agencies are good. There's a lot of different, we'll get in this 2 days, talk about like what creative is and media buyer and all that stuff. So all those people are in ad agencies. So an ad agency will work with, you know, Equifax's ad agency. Okay, Equifax is a company, right? And their marketing department will work with an ad agency. And what they'll do is they'll do these steps right here. So we all know what a target audience is, right? So the ad agency and the Equifax would get together and say, hey, I want to go after urban males 18 to 30 that make 100 grand a year, whatever the number is. So they identify their target audience, and Equifax says, okay, that's who I want to talk to. Okay, so if that's who I want to talk to, how do we do that, right? So you set advertising objectives. Now, what do you think, if you're advertising, let's talk about the internet. So let's just talk about an internet campaign. Forget TV for a second, or billboards, or we'll talk about all that later on. But let's talk it. So Equifax says, this is the audience I'm going after, and they got to set some advertising objectives. What objectives would advertising have on the internet? Okay, but that's the next step. So that's the next step. What objectives would an internet campaign have? What could they measure? What's that? Click rate, exactly right. Very good. What else? Views per page, very good. What else? Awesome, man, awesome. What's the hardest thing to gauge? Sales. That's the problem with advertising. The problem with advertising is you cannot, if I do this advertising campaign and my sales go up 10%, how much, is it all because of advertising? None because of advertising? So advertising is, from a sales perspective and a revenue perspective, is hard to gauge. But those were all great answers. There's a lot more, right? Click rate, you know, view per page, length on the site. So what Equifax will do is they'll say, you know what? We know that the longer somebody stays on the site, the better chance they've got to buy the product. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have these 3 goals, but this is the main goal. And this will be all, you know, this is all done over months and months and months. But we're going to say, hey, you know what? We want people to stay on our site. That's our goal. So those are the advertising objectives, would be those 3. Click rate, you know, how much per page, and length on site. Perfect. Then they determine the advertising budget. Get off track a little bit. Usually I think I talk about this in pricing, but I'll talk about it now. You guys have any idea? You guys know what budgets are. Everybody knows what a budget is, right? Do you guys have any idea how budgets are figured out or developed? What did I just say? Equifax. Equifax has a company. Who runs Equifax? CEO. Who ultimately starts with the money they're going to spend? CEO. So in the CEO, and this is a good career, I'm going to give you some career advice here in a minute too. So the CEO's got directly reporting to him, he's got the VP of IT, VP HR, VP sales, VP production, and VP of, marketing. Okay, so he's going to spend $100. In Equifax's case, probably 10 billion, whatever the number is. He's going to spend $100. So what does he do? He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and gives everybody $20, right, to spend? What's he do? Based on what? Right. So most people think if you're splitting $100, each of these folks gets $20. That ain't how it works. How it works is these people here make presentations to the CEO, okay? And these people here, what are they trying to do? Exactly, get the most money. They don't want $20. They want 25 or 30, whatever. And they're basically out to screw their partner. So here's what happens. The VP IT goes to the CEO and says, oh my God, our information systems are in the dark ages. We are so behind, we can't even get our shit together. We can't communicate to different divisions. Our customers are backwards, all that stuff. You know what? I need 40 hours out of that 100. He's okay. CEO, the VP of IT leaves the building. The VP of HR comes in and says, hey, you know what? We need 5% more people in the company this year. Equifax is growing. You know, we have all kinds of issues with not taking care of customers. We have to hire 1,000 more people. CEO says, okay, I need $40. CEO says, okay. Then the sales guy goes in, the vice president of production goes in, the vice president of marketing go in. All three of them give them their spiel, right? And it's a CEO's job to break up the $100 into what? Into that money being the most effectively used in the company. Now, the reason I said it's a career thing, I mean, that's at a very high level, right? But guess what? This happens every level. So let's just take vice president of sales. Vice president of sales, he's got a guy in the Northeast, Southeast, Northwest, and Central. So he's got 4 VPs that report to him. And this somehow, he got $30 out of the 100. So what does he do? Does he give everybody $7.50? Does he give each of these $7.50? What happens? Same thing. These guys go to talk to them, and the guy in the Northeast says, holy shit, our business is growing through the roof. We got all kinds of opportunities. Our competition sucks, blah, blah, blah. I don't want $7.50, I want $10. Now, that's exactly how it works. Exactly. Every company. Where do you want to work? Highest what? Not highest paid. Highest what? Percentage what? Resources. When you go to, and it's tough in an initial job, but after your first job, you need to think about, I never understood this. But when you get into management, you see how things work. If this man here is my boss, and he sucks going to his boss to get resources, okay? And you work for her, and she's great at getting resources. Between you and him, who's got a better chance of succeeding? You do, because your boss got you the resources to succeed. And in the business world, so many people fail because their bosses suck. And they can't get the resources to make them a success. So watch it, not necessarily your first job, but like your second, third job, especially if you're in the same company, make sure you try to go to somebody who gives you the resources to be a success, because a lot of times you're held back because you don't have the right resources. It could be the right equipment. It could be the right budgets. It could be the amount of people. It could be a million different things. But this is an art, which, by the way, I was great at. I was great at this, right? So people, just whatever, just to say I was good at it. So I always got a disproportionate amount of money than I probably should have, because I was a better internal, it's called internal sales. I was a better salesman to my boss and my boss's bosses. But that's how budgets go. So up here, let's go back to the slide, determine the advertising budget. How is that, what factors into the advertising budget? Up here, right? So in marketing, as VP of marketing, in the marketing department, you got advertising, you got PR, you got promotions, just to name three. Same scenario, same thing. This guy's going to get whatever he gets. Now, these people are going to sell them on getting more than their fair share, right? The promotions, it's hard to know because you guys don't know what really promotions are, but in this case, the advertising budget is set based on what they're given from the top, all right? And an advertising budget is what it is how much money you're going to spend on advertising. But you need to know how much money you're going to spend before you go forward. Okay, now there's something called conveying the message. What the hell is that? What's a message? What's Kentucky Fried Chicken? What's the message? What is it? Colonel Sanders, what's their message though? You know what their tagline is? Finger licking good, baby. Finger licking good. What is State Farm Insurance? Exactly. When you're a good neighbor, State Farm is there. What message is conveyed Lincoln Cars? We talked about this last class. What's that? Happy, how it makes you feel when you drive. All that's the message. And somebody is going to say, like Geico or these, Liberty Insurance, for instance. Have you guys seen Liberty Insurance on TV with that stupid emu? The Liberty commercial, the Liberty message, how they try to get it through is that you're able to customize your own insurance. That's the big thing with Liberty. That's the message. So advertising tries to convey a message, and the message, how it's conveyed, is a human. I mean, why are some commercials funny and some aren't? Why are some commercials have a lot of people in it, some have no people in it? How come some commercials go through a whole commercial, you don't even know what the product is until the end, they throw the logo up there? That's the message, all right? And all this is crazy amount of money is spent on all this stuff. I mean, crazy. Because the bottom line is like in the Super Bowl, if you think of the Super Bowl commercials, how about anybody watch the Super Bowl? Or have you guys seen the Doritos commercial with Matthew McConaughey? Have you seen it with the 3D? He gets into a vending machine. It's hard to explain, but basically, all of a sudden, Matthew McConaughey is paper thin, and he's going around the different places. He ends up in a vending machine trying to get at Doritos, and all of a sudden, he comes back to real life, and his face is against the front of the machine. Who the hell would come up with something goofy like that? I mean, think about, are they dropping acid or what? But guess what? It was one of the most popular commercials on the Super Bowl. So whatever it takes to get somebody to remember your product and what the message is for your product, whatever it takes, whether it's humorous, whether it's dramatic, whether it's scary, that's what you do. Okay, so that's a message. And then evaluate and select media. What's a media? The what? I know, that's right. Okay. Exactly, right? So internet would be considered a media, right? TV's a media, billboards a media, radio's a media. So those are different ways of communicating a message or advertising. That's different types of media. You guys got that? So when somebody goes to create, again, I had a public speaker here. He runs Yamaha Motorsports, is right over here. And he's a general manager of Yamaha Motorsports. He came in to talk to my class a couple of years ago. They took all of their advertising off, no magazines, no TV, no internet, YouTube, which I don't consider really YouTube the internet, but they put 100% of their advertising budget on YouTube. And what they're doing is they're paying influencers, which we'll talk about this later on. They're paying influencers to use their product. They completely trashed all other media. So it was his decision. He made the decision to do that. Well, hopefully he's right. Because if he's wrong and he spends millions of dollars on paying YouTube influencers and the sales doesn't come through like it would if he did an internet campaign or a TV campaign or a billboard campaign, then he made a mistake. But so evaluating and selecting media is something after you figure out what you're going to talk about, that's what you do. Then you create the ads and you assess the impact. The way you assess the impact is you go back to, I took it off. You go back to what your advertising objectives are. So whatever you choose to do through this whole mess, at the end you go back and say, what did I say? Length of time on pages. We want our objective, number one objective is length of time on page. You go back and the millions of people who came to see your ad on the internet, Equifax's ad on the internet, prior to the ad campaign, they spent 3.4 seconds on your page. Now after the advertising, they're spending 4.4 seconds on a page. Worked. If they still spend 3.4 seconds after the advertising campaign, you basically wasted your money, right? If your goal is to get people to stay on your page. You guys got that? So that's a pretty good process. And remember the ad agency. So the ad agency is not an employee of the company. Ad agency is a third party that works with companies to develop this stuff. You guys good? Any questions? Okay. Target audience, conduct research, use the information to set the tone, select the media. So I think we went through all that stuff, right? So let's do this. How would an ad agency conduct research? What are ways that they do that? What's that? How do advertising agencies, how do you think they would conduct research? What tools would they use? Surveys? What else? What's that term we used the other day where you got a group of people you talk to? Focus groups, very good. What else? I guess surveys is a pretty broad subject, pretty broad title, right? Focus groups, surveys. How else can they do research? Statistics from, very good. Study competitive products. Very good, right? All this stuff an ad agency is going to do in order to figure out who their target audience is. So if you've got a product, and that's a really good one. If you come out with a product that's Equifax, let's go back to Equifax. So Equifax's main competitor is Experian, right? So if they find out who Experian's customers are, which is pretty easy to do, then they'll target that market. How do I get Equifax to get the Experian customers in my stable? Okay, so they do that through research. Then they use the information to set the tone, which we'll talk about in a minute, and then select the media, right? Pretty simple. Advertising has three objectives: informing, persuading, reminding. Okay, so advertising has three objectives: informing, persuading, and reminding. This is easy, informing. So can you think of an ad that does a good job informing consumers about the product or service? Ford? What does Ford do? So they're talking about the functional, like last week we talked about the functional or use. So they're talking more about the functional. I think that's right. So any product or advertising that informs you how the product works or why it's better than something else, that's one form of advertising. The other form of advertising or objective is to persuade. What does that mean, obviously? Get them, in Ford's case, to buy Ford. So what's the differentiator between Ford and Chevy? The last thing is a little bit more complicated. This idea of reminding, what do you think that means? Why would one of advertising objectives is to remind somebody? You want your investment in ads to last, that's right. Would Ford necessarily have this in mind? Why not? Because why? Okay. So what does remind mean? Help me with what remind means. And advertising runs and one of its objectives is to remind. What does that mean? Remind you of the product. And do you think a product that is continually used, is that a big objective of advertising to remind? Or is it if you buy a Ford once every 4 or 5 years or 6 years or whatever it is, where is it more important to remind? You think so? Why do you say that? Okay. Candy. Let's talk about candy. Let's talk about M&Ms. You seen any M&Ms commercials? What is that commercial trying to do? Is that informing you? You know the M&Ms commercials on TV are those, the M&Ms. They're not informing you of anything. They're not talking about how good the product is or what the packaging is or what the price or any of that stuff is. Are they persuading you against other chocolate? I don't think so. What they're trying to do is remind you to buy chocolate. And those commercials for products like that, I think I see your point. I think my point would be maybe a little bit of the opposite, that it's products that are bought, but if somebody doesn't remind you to buy them, you don't buy them. You know what I mean? So it's something I think that's bought every 4 or 5 years. You're not going to forget to buy a car when your car goes out, but you might forget to buy M&Ms. It's like, oh shit, I haven't had M&Ms in 6 months. I'm going to get some M&Ms. So advertising objectives: inform, persuade, remind. Those are the 3 objectives that advertising has. And you guys cool? Quiet class tonight. You guys cool? You sleeping? All right, determining the advertising budget. Role that advertising plays to attempt to meet their overall promotional objectives. So advertising, when you're trying to sell a product, it's too early to talk about that. We'll talk about that later. I mean, there's different ways to spend money on developing a product or selling a product, and advertising is one of them. Expenditures vary over the course of the product life cycle. Uh-oh. You guys remember the product life cycle? You guys remember that? What was it? Very good. Hold on. Remember, this could be any product, right? This is every product, not just any product, every product. All right? This is time. This is sales. What's this called? Intro, very good. What's this called? What's this? Very good. And decline. So the point they're trying to make up there is the amount of money you spend on advertising has to do with your product, where it is in the life cycle. So let's say a product costs $10 just for the hell of it. How much are you going to spend on advertising? Give me a number. No, on the $10. What percentage of $10? 7? Okay, good. $7 on advertising. Where does the $7 get split up? Where's the most money spent on advertising? First two, that's exactly right. Hear what you said? So out of the $7, the biggest percentage of the advertising dollars is going to go in intro and growth, really. So help me out, help everybody out. What would you spend on? What would you spend? How would you cut it up? So you got $7. You don't have to, or maybe you do. You know, one thing's for sure: where do you not spend a lot of money? Decline, right? So you don't want to invest a ton in products that are going down, right? Unless you're going to try to, like we talked last class about getting the hook back up. So let's say this is 0. So you really spend $7 in through here. Now you said 340. That could be right. It could be wrong. It could be 2, 3, 2, whatever. But most of the money is spent on intro and growth. You guys got that? Because what is advertising trying to do? What's that word we use when you introduce a product? What's it need to do? It starts with an A. Sounds like 3 syllables. You guys play charades? Even know what charades is? Oh boy. Awareness, right? So they're trying to spend a lot of money to get you to even know about the product. That's why a lot of money advertising is spent up here. All right? Where's the profit highest? Where? Maturity. That'll be a test question almost for sure. All right, where sales and profit is the highest where? Maturity. Yeah. It depends on the product, right? But I see your point, right? So you're saying we could do 2, 4, 1? That could be, I don't know. There's no right answer to this other than on a test. There's no right answer to this, but I don't know if I'm going to answer this on a test. But if I do, no money here. Other than that, 2 things to remember. No money here, and most of the money is usually spent on intro and growth. So your point is, you know, it could be that your advertising dollars when the product goes into maturity stage is spent, I'm just making this up, on TV. That's a bad, magazines. Whereas your money on an intro is on the internet because you're trying to get as many people as possible to even be aware that the product exists. So not only do you spend different types of money, you may change the media that you promote the product in. Yes, sir. Okay, what's the answer to that question? You already have steady sales, right? And you've already developed loyal customers. So what you're doing right now is you're doing all you can to milk profit and sales. When sales start, good question. I mean, it's a math thing, right? If you're in this year, let's do this. In what year is today? 2021. 2015, you introduce a product and it sells 100. 2016, it sells 200. 2017, it sells 300. 2018 sells 300. 2019, 300. What's maturity? Well, 300. Right. So that's how you know. You know by sales. You know by sales. When sales start to even out and they're at their highest level, then what happens in 2020? 200. This year, 100. Uh-oh. That's your product life cycle right there. That's why people make a lot of money doing this. No answer. You got to know the product. You got to know your competition. You got to know how much money you make. You got to know the marketing environment, the political environment, all this shit. Somebody making a lot of money is figuring out, uh-oh, we're going to we're going to take away from marketing. On the other hand, maybe they're up here and they're saying, you know what? We're at this stage, but because we don't have enough advertising or because not enough people know us or whatever the case is, we're going to dump more money in here and trying to get the curve to go meow instead of down. Okay, but normally that's not what happens. What happens is this. Good questions, though. You guys good on that? My friends in the corner? You guys good? Okay. What do you find? All right. So where are we here? Yeah, expenditures over, right. So considerations on how much money's got to do with the product life cycle, the nature of the market and the product influence the size of the budget. So here's a crazy question, which isn't even on here, which is probably the most important thing to me, is profit. So listen, our little example here, you know, I said a product sells for $10. We're going to spend $7 on advertising. What happens if the product costs $6? You can't spend $7. So in this case, this product, the cost of this product better be $2 or less. You guys got that? Because if the cost of the product is $2 or less, that means the profit's $8. And if you want to spend $7 on advertising, knock yourself out. Right? If this product costs $4, you get $6 in profit. How the hell can you spend $7 on advertising? That's unless you want to lose money, which some companies do on an introduction. You guys got that? So one of the things I think that's missing from that page, which I don't quite understand why, is one of the most important things on how much money you spend on advertising or really anything in marketing on a product is how much profit that product will provide you, either now or in the future. So when they say nature of the market and the product influence on the size of the budget, maybe that's what they're talking about, but I don't think it's clear enough. So, you know, products that are more profitable, you obviously can spend a greater percentage of the sales profit or sales price on marketing or on advertising. So, something to think about. That's really not on the page. I'm not too sure why, because that's the most important thing. Okay, convey the message is it's called a unique selling proposition. I don't know if you guys know this. I love this one. This one's a perfect example. You guys have heard of United Negro College Fund? Have you all heard about that? They're not as, to me, they're not as prominent as they were like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But their byline is a mind is a terrible thing to waste. So what's the message there? What's the message for United? Why? What does that mean? Ah, interesting. You hear what you said? Totally wrong. Who are they talking to? Who's the advertising to? When they say this, a United Negro College Fund, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Who are they talking to? Who's your target audience? Exactly. Anybody with money. That message is not for the student, right? That message is not for the student. That's not for the one using the money. It's how do I get people to donate to the United Negro College Fund, whether it's a parent or a benefactor or whoever, whatever the hell it is. So this is a fund that takes in money and then gives it out to students, blacks, in this case, black students, in order to try to propagate their education. The thought here is that, you've got in minorities, you've got all these bright minds that may not make it to the surface because they don't have the resources to go to college or whatever the case is, right? So that's what, I love this. So that's their unique selling proposition. Mine is a terrible thing to waste. Nike, just do it. Jesus, how long has this been around? I think this came out when your parents were like 3 years old. Just do it. That's been around for a long time. So what's that? What are they trying to convey there? What do you say, just do it? What does that mean? Go for it. That's exactly right. Go for it, right? So have the courage or have, if you want to think you want to do mountain climbing, go for it. So Nike's got that aggressive, forward-thinking, trying to get the consumer to believe that they can do anything type thing. So there's State Farm, TNT. So a guy named Steve Koonin, this is interesting. So a guy named Steve Koonin was vice president of marketing. I knew him real well at Coke. And he's this tall, and he looks like a troll. Okay? And he is the singularly best speaker I've ever heard, and potentially definitely one of the smartest, if not the smartest guy I've ever met. He's this tall. He is brilliant. And when he made presentations at Coke, you'd either be laughing your ass off, or you could hear a pin drop. The guy's brilliant. And I knew him pretty well at Coke. He left Coke and went to this network thing called you know what he is? Now he's the president of the Hawks, by the way. Now he runs the Hawks. But between the Hawks and Coke, he ran TNT. And the reason he went to the Hawks is because he's a massive sports fan. Massive. And he doesn't need the money, man. He's made a fortune. He went to TNT and was a president of TNT. So TNT's got all these shows when he got there. Comedies, movies, game shows, all this shit. And TNT, I don't know, was 20th in the ratings or whatever. He says, to hell with that. We're going to do the whole network. All we're going to do is drama shows. So we're going to be known as the drama channel. So you may not, you guys might not be interested in drama, but I can tell you there's plenty of people in their 50s and 60s and 70s love that shit. Do you know how many people have seen every episode of SVU, Special Victim Unit, or every episode of Criminal Minds, or all that stuff? I knew a woman once who saw every episode of LA Law. It's like 20 seasons. So this is what he did. He said, well, I know what I'm going to put our network just as drama. And he came out this whole advertising campaign and said, we know drama. So he's not communicating to you guys. You're not what? Target audience. So that target audience he wanted to watch his network on knew that they loved drama, and he went bananas on drama. So that's what a unique selling proposition is. You guys got it? Okay. Those are pretty good examples. United Negro Fund is awesome. But so is State Farm, and TNT's a good one too. Okay, so evaluate and select the media. I'm going to get a little technical here. All right, let me do this. What do you guys think media planning is? You guys know what media is, right? So give me examples of media. Hold it. Give me examples of media. Internet? Very good. Very good. One more. Radio, billboards, anything that communicates a marketing message is a media. Thanks. Okay? So media planning, what do you think that is? Fantastic, right? So they've got to decide what media you're going to use or how many media you're going to use. TV, internet, YouTube. Let's just use that as a different, I just think it's a different media. YouTube, radio, magazines, billboard. Which do most companies today spend the least on? Why is that? Nobody reads, right? Right, magazines are for old people. Now, the only thing I would say there is some magazines are really focused on like hunting or golfing or something like that. Magazines are still pretty prevalent, but for the most part, you're right. Magazines are down the tubes, right? So let's say we're not going to do magazines. What product are we doing? What product are we doing? Pick a product. Baseballs. Baseball bats. Louisville Sluggers. So that's a baseball bat. Now, Louisville Sluggers, Jesus, it's got to have, what, an 80 share? 70 share, whatever it is. There's not much competition in Louisville. But let's say there's a bunch of people making bats. and we're going to pick Louisville Slugger. Well, we've nixed out the magazines. Okay. So now we got billboards, radio, YouTube, internet, TV. What do you think? Should we spend money on all of them? Which one are we? Is there another one you want to take out? Radio. Why is that? Are you the market? Are you the market? Huh? Okay, so who's the market? Okay, are they listening to the radio? You think they are? Ah! See what you said? That's the next step, by the way. So he said, yes, they listen to baseball games on the radio. So let's keep the radio, but not total radio. During what? Awesome. So this is like a half. I would say podcasts. Yeah. It's funny you brought that up. Does everybody understand podcasts? You know, again, I had a guest speaker. As a matter of fact, I texted her. I emailed her today. Her boyfriend, or I think it's a fiance now, his whole job is, you know how podcasts work in terms of advertising and who pays for what? He represents, I don't know, like 100 companies. And his job is to go to podcasts and do one of two things. He either buys space in the podcast, or a lot of times, you know, when a host mentions a product, they either can be paid for that, or a lot of times they're not paid for that. So say somebody really likes a deodorant, you know, so so they're doing this goofy podcast and on whatever it is. And this guy likes the deodorant. He talks about how much he loves the deodorant. Is that gold or what? That's gold. It's funny you brought that up because I'm a huge, and I don't even listen to podcasts, but from a marketing perspective, I don't understand why you still put almost all your money behind podcasts. If you're a gun manufacturer and you manufacture guns and you're selling guns, why wouldn't you put like almost your whole marketing budget behind podcasts of gun owners? Why would you mess around with TV or radio or even internet as a mass thing? Podcasts to me are a really good way of targeting your market. So it could be anything. It could be mountain climbers. It could be computer guys. It could be anything. Anything. That podcast has a definite market. It's not the whole market. It's not like this classroom. The podcasts are based on people who have an interest in that subject. So this guy, his job is he markets, got this relationship with like 100 companies or 50 or whatever it is. And he goes these various podcasts and tries to get them to talk about their product. Or he buys space in there. The companies give him money and then he spends it with, who listens to podcasts in here? You listen to podcasts? What podcast you listen to? Joe Rogan. So tell me about, because I don't know, he's like a famous dude, right? What's he do? Oh, is that what he is on MMA? Okay. Sports? Oh. Does he? Okay. Who's his market? General market. Okay. You guys listen to a podcast back there? You ever listen to podcasts? No? Nobody listens to podcasts? What the hell's wrong with you guys? I thought this was the way that you hang out now. What podcast you listen to? Dude Soup? Dude Soup. Okay, what is that? So she's listening to it? Why is that? Yeah, duh. Duh. So if I got a product that's only used for males, why would I run a radio advertisement where half of the audience is freaking females, or run anything? Why wouldn't I don't get why people don't spend their money directly on play. If your product a male product, why wouldn't you market it through podcasts? I don't know. To me, in terms of focus, Specificity. Yeah. When you're marketing, look, anytime you can get specificity and you're talking to your target market and you're not talking to people who don't give a shit about, that's good. Okay, so in this case, what product do we got? Oh, the Louisville Slugger. Okay, are we going to do TV, internet, YouTube, and what's that? Billboard? We're going to do billboard? Why? Absolutely right. First of all, a lot of the market of Louisville Slugger, they're not even driving yet. Right? So that's exactly right. And billboards are for what? Billboards are for products that what? Apply to almost everybody. It's a general market product. Chick-fil-A, insurance companies. That's who you see on billboards. It's a product or service that applies to a lot of people. It's not a product or service that's specialized because they're wasting their money, like you said. Why would you pay for 1 million people to see your billboard when 500 care? I want to go market. Where those 500 hang out, that's where I want to market. Okay, so just for the hell of it, we've taken out billboards, magazines, and we've kept YouTube, we've kept radio. How about internet? I say yes. What about TV? When? Games. So this is interesting because I've never done this in class before. So I'm Louisville Slugger. I'm the vice president of marketing here. And I've looked at these options and I've worked with my ad agency and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do internet, YouTube, radio during games, and TV during games. Got it? First step. You guys cool? Okay. Then you're going to talk about the media mix. So that's actually what I just went through here. This is what's called a media mix. Let's leave it at that. The tough one is media buy. Okay, I've got $100 to spend on advertising. I know I'm going to spend it on radio and TV during the games and on the internet and YouTube. Okay, now what do I do? Radio. How much? Mm-hmm. 40. Okay. What about TV? Okay. What about the internet? Okay. No right answer, you guys, right? There's no right answer. We don't even know what we're talking about. We're just basically, thanks. We're trying to explain the process advertisers and marketing people have to go through. Now, why did you jump all over radio?
Kids aren't buying. Older people who have like sons that play baseball listen to the radio.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. So who's the target market? So who's the target market? What's the right answer? Who knows? Think about that. This happens a lot, right? The parents are paying for the bats. The kids are using the bats. Who do we advertise to? I don't know the answer to that. But the Louisville Slugger better know the answer to that because you just made an assumption. But let's just say it's right. So you're advertising to the parents. Is that what you said? Because why? Spying the money. Okay. Then how come we put $20 into YouTube? On YouTube. Okay, great. Well, wait a minute. Here your market was parents. Now what are you doing? Now you're talking to kids. It's confusing as hell. If you're really going to go after parents, yes, sir. If you're really going to go after parents, I just made this up. If you're really going to go after the parents, is this skew right? Is this right? 20, 20, 20, 40? What do you think it could be instead? Why is that? During what though? Games. So do kids watch baseball games on TV? Do they? I'm assuming they don't. Stream them. Okay. If you were going against the adults, though, a skew like this, whoever said this, I guess you said, this might be more relevant to adults. If you're going to kids, I'm going, what is that, 50, 70, something like, I don't even know that. I would go maybe 20, 30 here. Something like that, right? So that's the importance of knowing who your market is. All right, just for the hell of it, let's do this. $20 on radio, $20 on TV, internet's 30, YouTube's 30. Instead of going after the parents, we're going after the kids. Okay? Kids who play baseball. Fantastic. Okay, let's go now. We've already determined in radio and TV, when are we doing our advertising? During games. So we're cool on that. It's pretty easy. What about the internet? I'm going to drop banner ads. So do I do that 24 hours a day? When do I do it? When? Awesome. Whoever said whatever, out of school. So let's do an internet plan. Okay, you got an internet plan, you got 24 hours, and I'm spending $30. And the times are 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., 6 p.m. to 10. Where the hell am I? 10 to 12, 12 to 2 in the morning, 2 to 4, 4 to 6. Guys got that? What did you just say? So I got $30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 time slots. I'm just going to do $2.50 for each time slot. Is that right? That's what? Why is that? Okay, what's worth it? Which is when? Well, we just said it. So she said after school. So if you got, what is this, 30, when's after school? 2 to 6. So what do you want to spend there? 15, 20? It's the same process as before. All this stuff is not created equal. Okay? So you've got to go, and now people, this is, the logarithms, Excel spreadsheets are as long as this room to figure this stuff out. But let's just say you're in 20 here, and 20 and 10. So all of our advertising is between 2 in the afternoon and 10 at night for kids. Got it. Okay. Now, where on the internet are we going to go? We know we're going to advertise on the internet from 2 to 6. We're going to spend $20. Now what? Where do we spend it? Dick's Sporting Goods. Where else? Academy. Where else? Cool what? Cool math? What's cool? What's cool math? Okay. Cool math, M-A-T-H? Okay, just for the hell of it, let's say it's these 3. All right. You guys got it? Okay. Now let's just go to Dick's. Dick's is on the internet. What do? You're doing Louisville Sluggers, right? So do you want to run a banner ad? Where do you want to run a banner ad? Ah, baseball. Why not the homepage? Too general. Okay? So let me ask you a question. What percentage of people see the homepage versus the baseball page? 100 more? 100 times? If you advertise just in the baseball, what do you have a chance of doing? You lose people who aren't thinking about bats. Right? They're saying, shit, my kid's got bats. He don't need bats. It's not, remember that thing we talked about earlier about creating a gap? We talked about last class? There's a perfect example. If you run a bat on a homepage, I'm not saying that, I'm just making this stuff up. You can argue either way. That's fine. There's no right answer. If you run it on a homepage and you run bats, everybody's going to see it. But it's also more what? What's the cost versus the baseball page? More expensive. So this is more expensive. You guys follow me? Great. Do that for every freaking product you've got. Every different media, every different time. That's what media buyers do. Very, extremely complicated. And there are jobs called media buyers, and that's exactly, this process is exactly what they do. It's a little actually easier to understand if we would have picked a product like that was a general product that was like toilet paper, that was sold on TV. It's a little easier to understand because then you're saying, oh, should it be on Fox or CBS or NBC or, what time should it be? If this was a do-it-yourself, those goofy do-it-yourself goofy products, when do you think they advertise? Everybody says, well, shit, who's advertising between 12 and midnight and 6 in the morning? Nobody does that. Who's advertising then? Pizza companies. Video. Those goofy products, which I don't even like, Ramco and all that shit. There's a ton. You guys know what infomercials are? What are infomercials? You know what infomercials are, sir? Yeah, then they're paid. They buy a half an hour on, let's say TV. They buy a half an hour on TV and they're boring as hell. But unfortunately, they work. Unfortunately, they work. And that's why you keep on seeing them. Anytime you see something in any business, even though you think it's a stupid idea, like I think those Kroger commercials I think we talked about this, the Kroger down. I think it's the dumbest freaking, every night, day after day. Well, guess what? They're a lot more smarter than I am. Somehow, and Publix is totally, look at the way Publix advertise, totally different than Kroger, right? So Publix and Kroger both feel what they're doing is the right thing to do because they keep on doing it over and over again. So anyway, the point is, there's so many choices for a product to do. And again, there's different steps, right? If they would have said, hey, I'm not doing radio or TV, internet, I'm just going to do magazines. Somebody can make that decision and all this shit doesn't make any difference, right? They're 100% going to fail. Okay, so that's the media mix and media buy. Okay, any questions? Any questions, you guys? No questions? Internet people, any questions? Internet people? Okay, see you Monday.